G'day, Paul Brennan, Bring Our Birds Home. It's a cool Wednesday morning, July 5th, hence the puffer jacket again. No need to make comments like, why don't you get a heater? In fact, running the central heating system here this morning was an option, but it's prohibitively expensive, so I'll stick with the jacket. Otherwise I'll be shivering trying to get the words out. Anyway, some of you will be curious. You'll be wondering how my meeting yesterday with Mario Alzugaray, the ambassador of Cuba, went. Well, I rocked up to the Cuban embassy in Wellington at Messines Road, Karori, yesterday, 2 o'clock, to meet Mario. Spent an hour with him. It was a fantastic meeting. He's a cool guy. I told him all about Bring Our Birds Home, why we started the campaign, the 5 airframes of national significance, including this baby here. He mentioned he'd been onto the Facebook page. He was impressed with the engagement, the passion, the comments, the images, the videos. He mentioned the Beatles arriving in Wellington as a video that he really enjoyed watching. So he knows about the campaign. Then we got on to why this aircraft. Why am I chasing this aircraft? Which is at Havana, Cuba, the last remaining Air New Zealand DC-10 on the planet, delivered to our airline in 1976 as ZK NZS, operated into the early 80s. I told him that it was this aircraft type that got us into the wide-bodied era of travel. I told him it helped build the early foundations of our very successful tourism industry. I told him that it was the aircraft that took the Koru to London, that New Zealanders could finally fly on their own airline to the mother country, which was significant. And we talked about the events of November 1979 as well. So Mario has a very good idea now why we are particularly interested in this airframe, why it's one of the 5. And now it's a matter of finding a pathway through to us eventually getting hold of it. Mario is traveling to Cuba on the 12th, and he will include in his business back in Cuba now some meetings and some chats with people who know about this airframe, who might be able to have some decision-making power in its future, and we'll try and work out a deal through relationships which we are starting to build now, where we can take possession of that airframe. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but I think it's doable. We both agreed that if we could do something here, it would be a real high point in the relationship between New Zealand and Cuba. I mentioned to him many thousands of people would be very appreciative to the Cuban people if we were to get this back. And he looked at the title on the forward fuselage here and thought that this airframe might be part of a training operation, maybe an instructional airframe. We talked about the possibility of that maybe having to be replaced so that work can carry on if this airframe's not available. We talked about possible scenarios and configurations to make a deal work. Anyway, the good thing is that now it's in train. Now things are moving ahead. It's been quite a while in getting to this stage with the DC-10 and the Cuban angle. I told him what keeps me up at night is doing this work and trying to get these opportunities, and unbeknown to us something happens to the airframe. I told him that is not what we want to happen, so he's conscious of that. And I impressed upon him that we don't just want this a little, we want this a whole lot. So the meeting ended with a great handshake and him saying to me, Paul, you might have to be prepared to make a short notice trip to Cuba. And I said, Mario, I can be there tomorrow, the next day, and it doesn't matter how many times it takes, I will be there. We sort of had a bit of a laugh about that. So I would remind you again that we're still taking donations to the Give a Little page. There will be expenses soon. We're going to be funding some legal work in Brazil very shortly on the DC-8 front, and I'll have more about that at the end of the week. But we will be making these recce trips soon. I can just feel it. Myself and our engineering consultant Rex Stanners will definitely head off to Manaus, Brazil to look at the DC-8 when that's ready. And then we'll also, I think, in the not too distant future, be heading to Cuba to have a look over NZS. Rex will be particularly interested in how to dismantle it and to reduce it to components that can be transported. So I'm expecting some developments pretty soon on both fronts. I'll update you again at the end of the week on the DC-8 and anything else. In the meantime, I'm providing Mario at the Cuban embassy with all the information he needs to take back to Cuba. I told him I'm available to answer any questions in real time. Give me a call any time of the day or night, no problem. And then when he gets back, I guess we'll move to the next level. In the meantime, I want to thank you for your comments, for your support, for your engagement. Remember, givealittle.co.nz/cause/bring our birds home. The images are fantastic. Those recent images of the DC-10 in production in Long Beach, California are just fantastic. And the reach that we're getting now with some of the images and videos is just phenomenal. So thank you for that. Thank you for supporting Bring Our Birds Home.